As Aethys's voice fades, the enormity of what you've accomplished sinks in. You have confronted a god. You have rediscovered the ancient city where the wheel was forged, and you have seen the wheel shattered. What comes next is uncertain, but already the legend spreads of the Watcher who survived Andra's mortar and stood toe-to-toe with Aethys. Unfortunately, your legend will not last very long. The doubt you have planted in Aethys is a relentless force. To have come so far and hoped so boldly in the valor of Kith, only to have those hopes rebuked. It is too much, even for a god. This doubt festers within Aethys. As he reaches beyond the wreckage of the wheel, it passes from him to the luminous Audra beneath. The entire world trembles as the Audra at its core splinters. Waves drown the coast. The earth splits and swallows cities. Luminous Audra dims, and the gods fall silent. The real destruction, however, begins in the hours and days that follow. The death of Aora begins with the small things. Grass and insects, all the tiny lives that are hardly missed until they are gone. But in the shadow of each death is another. Grain withers on the stalk, cattle choke on dust, nations starve too quickly to make war. And what dies does not come back. The bones of Aora's dead sink into the soil, and their untethered souls leach into the in-between. The world ends as others have begun, a lifeless rock in a cloud of essence. No sooner has Bareth spoken than you feel yourself dissolve. It is not an unpleasant sensation, something between falling asleep and drifting on a warm current. Your essence is pulled through the Audra, where it mingles with the stuff of thousands of other souls. Your thoughts, your memories, even your identity as the Watcher, fade like a dream. Eventually, your soul reforms and finds its way into a small, crawling thing of fur and claws. You know the world by sound and scent, as food and danger. The concerns of gods and nations are beyond you. It is a simple and satisfactory existence, though your mind can conceive of no other. Whether it is a long one will depend upon the Watcher Bareth chooses in your stead. Your stand against Aethys lasts no longer than it takes you to declare it. In less than the span of a breath, the god absorbs your soul into his Audra body, where it mingles with the thousands already there. It is a strange afterlife, a place of sleepy peace for some and unrelenting tedium for others. For you, it is a place of stasis. You surface from the morass, time and again, only to remember the task you left behind, and how powerless you are now to complete it. You dimly perceive a world in chaos, souls hanging in the balance. You recall there was something you were supposed to do, but it feels as though you've been locked in a cage and dropped into the sea. You sink and forget, only to remember again. On your recommendation, Aethys disperses his essence, and that of the thousands of souls within him, to centers of knowledge and learning around the world. Animancers, engineers, wizards, and scholars of all stripes make astounding breakthroughs in understanding and harnessing the phenomena that govern Aora. Under the leadership of Director Castal, and amply supplied with Ukaizo's luminous Audra, the Valian Trading Company unites animancers from around the world. The advances they make together promise to surpass even the work of the Anguithans. Under the leadership of Director Alvari, and amply supplied with Ukaizo's luminous Audra, the Valian Trading Company becomes the dominant force in animancy. Knowledge is gathered and hoarded, and rivals are recruited, discredited, or worse. The field of animancy is both invigorated and weakened by this fierce competition. While some of these developments prove beneficial to Kith, others are decidedly less so. But such is the price of innovation. What remains to be seen is how, indeed whether, they will restore the cycle Aethys has broken. As the light of thousands of souls leaves Maras Nua's body, Deadfire quakes, the sea churns. All around the archipelago, long-forgotten Anguithan ruins rise from the rubble and the waves, a lost bounty of ancient knowledge, now laid bare for Kith. The Huana lay claim to Deadfire's ruins and lead efforts to explore them. They prove especially adept at deciphering the secrets of Ukaizo, emboldening efforts to recreate the work of the Anguithans. Director Castal's Valian Trading Company takes a special interest in the Anguithan ruins of Ukaizo, and his animancers make great progress in deciphering the work of the ancients there. Priests, mystics, and visionaries around the world dream of ancient pasts. Scholars delve into the annals of history. All of Aora gazes backward to find its way forward. What remains to be seen is whether Kith will find the same answers the Anguithans did, and whether they will apply them to the same effect. Aethys channels his essence into Bereth, empowering the god of doors, cycles, and life and death beyond all other gods. Bereth vows to maintain peace and order in the here and the beyond, while Kith labor toward a solution. The other gods, for the time being, submit. Under Bereth's guidance, the world becomes a more predictable, stable place. Seasons fall into a disturbingly regular rhythm, and wars, famines, and natural disasters dwindle. But so, too, do surges of prosperity and innovation. Newly empowered by their victory in Deadfire and this season of calm, Rauatai rises to prominence in Aora. The Ranganui and his people lead efforts to effect a solution to the winding down of reincarnation, pursuing that goal with the same dogged relentlessness with which they have pursued all others for millennia. Their resourcefulness and tenacity slowly but surely guide Aora closer to salvation. Great minds around the world work methodically towards salvation, both unhindered and uninspired by changes, upheavals, and the unexpected. Maras Nua's body finally goes still amidst the rubble of the Anguithan machines, yet it continues to glow. Priests and mystics have strange dreams of an island of eternal dawn at the eye of a storm, a port where the tide never flows out, a roadside tavern whose door leads only inward. As a watcher, you see what these dreamers cannot. The souls of the departed drifting toward the Audra Colossus and the twilit afterlife within. Whether it is a temporary haven or a permanent end will depend on what the Kith of Aora are able to accomplish on their own. The greatest hope seems to lie in animancy, which the burgeoning Valian Trading Company explores with newfound purpose and vigor. The greatest hope seems to lie in the work of the ancient Anguithans and the Huana's efforts to unearth and understand it. The greatest hope seems to lie with the Rauataians, whose plans to excavate and rebuild the shattered machinery of reincarnation draws many of the engineers and weather mages who once irrigated and protected their rocky homeland. And while Maras Nua stands frozen over Ukaizo, the gods look on the labors of Kith, but they do not intervene. They watch and argue, wager and conjecture at how, or whether, mortals will solve the puzzle set before them. Great changes are at work in Deadfire and the world beyond, but the storms of Andra's mortar rage on. Whatever salvation Kith achieve will be hard-won, but it will be the deliverance of their own choosing. Your pursuit of Aethys and your journey to Ukaizo signal the end of forces that have shaped the lives of Kith and the course of nations. The cycle of reincarnation has been broken. The storms of Andra's mortar have calmed. Yet each ending promises a new beginning. As the sun rises over Ukaizo, Kith turn their gaze eastward, wondering at what lies beyond, and at the world they will fashion for themselves. As the watcher of Cadnua and the former herald of Bereth, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather. In reaching Ukaizo and facing Aethys, you have accomplished the impossible, and you have done it without the assistance of the great powers of Deadfire. Your feats capture the awe and imagination of a world that needs heroes more than ever. Some say your intervention prevented Aethys from a far worse act of destruction. Many believe you will be the salvation of Aora. With each day, your legend grows, as does the chaos in Deadfire. Reclaiming Ukaizo is both a symbolic and a practical victory for the Huana. The ancient city is a potent reminder of their people's ancient glory, and it promises to be a much more easily defensible capital, especially with the storm controls of Andra's Spire close at hand. The other tribes unite under the Kahanga and dedicate themselves to rebuilding Ukaizo and relearning its secrets. The Valian Trading Company continues its operations in Deadfire, though it is forced to renegotiate many of its contracts with the newly empowered Huana Crown. Company leadership finds that the new terms are much more favorable to the tribes than to their own interests in the region. Due to these changes, the Valian Trading Company eventually withdraws most of its people from Deadfire, though Castal convinces the Songreta Mea Compressa to maintain nominal animancy operations in the region. They agree and put him in charge of them. Due to these changes, the Valian Trading Company eventually withdraws most of its people from Deadfire. Castal begs the Songreta Mea Compressa to maintain nominal animancy operations. The Songreta reluctantly agrees, and as punishment for Castal's losses at Andra's mortar, they put him in charge of this initiative. Most of the Republics consider this an embarrassing demotion, though Castal himself relishes his smaller, quieter role. The Royal Deadfire Company is expelled from the archipelago as punishment for their attack at Andra's mortar. The Royal Deadfire Company is allowed to continue trading in the archipelago, though they are forced to submit most of their outposts and fortifications to Huana leadership. The storms across the Rawatayan mainland subside along with those of Andra's mortar. However, Rawatai regards this respite with a wary eye, ever mindful that the machinery at Andra's Spire remains under their foes' control. The battle at Andra's mortar leaves the fleet of the Principi Sen Patrena in shambles. Thus sundered, they fight among each other until they are little more than squabbling bands of pirates. They continue to harass unguarded merchant vessels, but they are fit for little more. Gone are the dreams of empire and the hunger for primacy. The Huana settlement of Ukaizo reignites Ferrante's dream of a new Valian empire. Deadfire is claimed and controlled, but the clearing of Andra's mortar offers the possibility of new prospects in yet undiscovered lands. He leads the old Valian loyalists across the sea, searching still for a new Valian homeland. With the Huana settling in at Ukaizo and both Valian and Rawatayan trade reduced, Deadfire becomes a much less tempting target for Aldi's Principe. The end of the storms at Audra's mortar, however, offers tantalizing possibilities, new lands, and fatter prizes. Aldi's leads the New Bloods across the sea in search of fresh adventures. The last thing Two-Eyed Pim wants is leadership over the divided Principe. But he finds himself thrust into the role nonetheless. To the surprise of all, he prospers. While he lacks Ferrante's charisma and Aldi's bravura, he proves to have a knack for delegation and an excellent head for business. And despite all the changes in Deadfire, the archipelago still hunger for trade. Under him, the Principi Sen Patrena evolve into a transit company, one of the largest and certainly the best armed in all of Aora. And as the only sizable outfit without a connection to any rival government, Pim finds himself in a rather profitable niche indeed. At Ukaizo, the Valian Trading Company discovers a cornucopia of Anguithan devices and artifacts, as well as vast reserves of luminous Audra. Under Director Castal's leadership, the company is poised to become not only the foremost authority on animancy, but also the dominant power in Deadfire. The Songreta Mea Compressa quickly approves the construction of an academy at Ukaizo, in addition to several permanent settlements. At Ukaizo, the Valian Trading Company discovers vast reserves of luminous Audra. Under Director Alvari's leadership, the company begins harvesting it at breakneck speed. the Songreta Mea Compressa hastily approves the construction of several temporary settlements. And the message is clear. The company is here for business, but not forever. Valian wealth flows into the archipelago, and what powers remain chase it desperately. Juana tribes compete with one another for contracts, and independent traders vie for business. Everyone seizes what they can while the boom lasts, anxious in the knowledge that, one day, the Valians will leave, and the contest for Deadfire will likely begin again. With Queen Onikaza II dead, the Juana tribes fragment further. Some profit by working with the Valians, and others find themselves evicted from their old lands. But for many, life continues much as it had. With the Kahanga monarch reduced to a figurehead, the Juana tribes fragment further. Some profit by working with the Valians, and others find themselves evicted from their old lands. But for many, life continues much as it had before. The Valians' business interests trump their enmity, and they allow most of the Royal Deadfire Company's ships and personnel to remain in the archipelago to trade. Rauatai's legendary cannons pose little threat to them now. After all, the Valians could not want for better leverage than Andra's spire. The storms across the Rauataian mainland subside along with those of Andra's mortar. However, Rauatai regards this respite with a wary eye, ever mindful that the machinery at Andra's spire remains under their foe's control. The influx of Valian business into Deadfire creates an unprecedented opportunity for the Principi Sen Patrena. Though their dreams of conquest have been squashed, there are more than enough prizes passing through to keep the captains in silk and their crews fed and content. And business is good enough that the Songreta is willing to write off more than a few losses with each transit. As Rauatai's engineers had predicted, turning off the machine at Andra's spire calms not only the storms of Andra's mortar, but also those in Rauatai. For the first time, citizens of the mainland admire the beauty of sea and sky, without wondering when they will unleash destruction. The changes to Rauatai, however, extend far beyond the weather. Rauataians had long forged their identities around enduring hardship and laboring together. But over time, as their cities and crops flourish under sunny skies, they find they need one another less. Inevitably, some lament this softer, easier life. Others point to national self-reliance, to burgeoning industry, to families that did not have to send their kin abroad, as evidence that the new ways are vastly preferable to the old. Besides, Rauataians everywhere still share a purpose more urgent than any the world had ever known: reforging the cycle of reincarnation. The changes to Deadfire are just as significant. The Ranganui declares the archipelago an extension of his empire, and his administrators waste no time in making that true in deed as well as in word. Rauataian gunships patrol Deadfire, hunting down pirates and smugglers, including the remaining Principi. After their defeat at Andra's mortar, the pirate nation stands no chance against the organized might of Rauatai. Rauataian gunships patrol Deadfire, hunting down pirates and smugglers, including the Principi. Divided as they are, the pirate nation stands little chance against the organized might of Rauatai. They manage a few respectable battles before Ferrante is forced to declare their defeat and disband once and for all. Aldis keeps them fighting until the very end, losing most of her ships in a grand battle that Rauatai's lore chanters will sing about for years to come. As Rauataian farmers, merchants, and laborers move to the archipelago, there is little room and less patience for the Valian Trading Company. The Ranganui soon forces the Valian Trading Company to surrender its holdings in Deadfire, straining relations with the republics. Rauatai knits its new archipelago together with all the tools of government and infrastructure. New ports spring up across Deadfire, guarded with sturdy Rauataian bronze and run with dispassionate Rauataian efficiency. Most Juana remain, even as their homeland changes around them. Their huts and lodges are cleared to make way for towns of stone and brick. The walls that are built to protect them also cut them off from the freedom of the open sea. Those Juana who trade caste and prize share for Rawatayan unity and striving prosper. Others mourn the passing of their queen and see the end of their way of life as a precursor of the doom of Aora. Under Ferrante's guidance, the Principi Sen Petrena lay claim to Ukaizo and begin the difficult work of nation-building. They establish a formal government around the Consuelo Mes Casitas and learn to cultivate and trade for the resources they once seized and stole. Their neighbors in the archipelago are initially reluctant to accept them, but given the ample protection that Andra's Spire affords Ukaizo, they have little choice. The Valian Trading Company and the Royal Deadfire Company continue trading in the region, though they're now forced to pay tariffs to the very pirates who once robbed them. Rawatai enjoys a respite from the storms, though the Principi's control of Andra's Spire remains a constant threat. Devastated by their defeat at Andra's mortar and demoralized by the loss of Ukaizo, the Juana tribes fragment further. Without a monarch in place, the once great city of Nekataka gradually devolves into a den of crime. After the battle, Aldi sends her fleet from Ukaizo. Her first and last act as Lady of the Ancient City is to reactivate the storms from Andra's Spire. Her work done, she departs in the floating hangman. She determines that none shall control the power of Ukaizo. Under her, the Principi shall remain a lawless, rootless pirate band, and Deadfire shall remain free for any with the will to make their way in it. Demoralized by the loss of Ukaizo, the Juana tribes fragment further. All of Queen Onikaza's work to unify her people falls apart, and foreign traders openly flout the decrees of the Kahanga crown. As the rise in piracy makes operations in Deadfire ever more costly, the Consuelo Mea Compressa votes to scale back the Valian Trading Company's presence. Luminous Adra and Animancy Research remain valuable enterprises, but the company can no longer afford to seek dominance in the region. The Royal Deadfire Company makes a final attempt to seize Ukaizo using an innovation of its own, a ship that submerges itself beneath the waves and storms. It is not, however, immune to the magically charged barrels that Aldi's ships drop into the water. After an embarrassing defeat, the Royal Deadfire Company consolidates its forces in the archipelago and limits its ambitions to a handful of well-guarded plantations. The storms of Rawatai rage on, and its people muddle through with the same tenacity that has served them for millennia. Ukaizo remains unclaimed, and the Efekia Channel becomes the site of a near-constant battle as the Juana and the Rawatayans vie for control of the unprotected island. The Rawatayans rely on their cannons, and the Juana call forth massive waves and beasts of the deep to sink their foes. And while they chip away at one another, the Valians and the Principi pursue their own ends with increasing abandon. Emboldened by their rivals' distraction, the Valian Trading Company seizes territory and mines Luminous Adra at a startling pace. Juana villages are left at the mercy of unscrupulous speculators, and resource-rich islands are swarmed and stripped. To support their operations, the Valian Trading Company begins shipping ever greater quantities of supplies and Luminous Adra to and from the archipelago. This attracts the attention of the Principi, who target these ships with increasing aggression. The promise of fat prizes draws even more pirates to their ranks. The Rawatayans, as well as the Juana, are too busy to stop them. The mysterious deaths of Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa provoke hostilities between the Valian settlers and the Huawan residents. What starts with angry words escalates to retaliatory killings as each side blames the other. By the time anyone bothers to question the strange coincidences surrounding their deaths, including reports of a cloaked Omawi woman seen in both the port and the village, both sides have gone too far to turn back. The chaos makes it easy for a small Rawatayan contingent to swoop in and establish control over the island. Within days, they eject the remaining Valians and pacify the Juana. Port Maje becomes a valuable outpost, and one that allows Rauatai easy control over the southern end of Deadfire. It is, by all accounts, a smooth and exceedingly well-run operation. The conflict eventually draws the attention of Queen Onikaza, who sends a contingent of warriors to drive the remaining Valians from the island. Port Maje becomes a cautionary tale for outsiders who would abuse the hospitality of the Juana tribes. The conflict eventually draws the attention of the Songreta Mea Compresa. They dispatch a mercenary company to subdue the remaining Juana and select a strict hardliner to replace Clario. Port Maje becomes a cautionary tale for Juana tribes that would consider violence against the Valian trading company. As the conflict tears both the village and the town apart, many people, Juana and Valian alike, drift away in search of other opportunities. Many find themselves among the newly empowered Principi. After the violence they've already seen, piracy doesn't seem so bad. Your wanton bloodshed scarred the people of Port Maje, especially following in the wake of the catastrophic storm and the sighting of the Adra Colossus. Many who had come seeking their fortunes leave Deadfire for good. Ikawa's death leaves Sarahuzi a ghost town. Those who survived your attack flee and never set foot on the island again. After your murder of Clario, Ikawa leads her people away from Sarahuzi, resolved to avoid the capricious violence of outsiders' affairs. The Rauataians swoop in and quickly establish control over the city. They built up much better defenses than their Valian predecessors, transforming Port Maje into a control point for the southern region of the archipelago. The Valian Trading Company eventually reestablishes control over the island. Learning from their mistakes, they build up Port Maje's defenses and hire mercenaries to protect it. Half abandoned and undefended, Port Maje gradually becomes a haven for the Principi. Despite other tensions across the archipelago, Port Maje remains a model of peaceful, productive cooperation between the Juana and the Valian Trading Company. Though they do not always agree, Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa work together for the mutual benefit of their people. As Rauataian ships close on Port Maje, Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa unite their forces in resistance. Rauatai eventually prevails, but only after a long and costly campaign. Port Maje remains stable despite the changes at work in Deadfire. Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa work together to shore up their defenses against the Principi and to petition the Valian Trading Company for additional funding. Thanks to their joint efforts, Port Maje becomes a bastion of security and prosperity in the southern archipelago. The Kahanga leadership takes responsibility for the welfare of the Raparu, and the gullet starts to improve. What was once a den of crime, poverty, and illness slowly becomes a quiet haven for the Raparu. The pirates continue smuggling food into the gullet, and the Raparu embrace their benefactors, aiding and concealing their smuggling operations. Over time, the gullet becomes a hotbed of piracy. The Royal Deadfire Company evacuates and razes the gullet, hoping to lift the Raparu out of squalor and eradicate the criminal elements. They certainly rid Nekataka of an eyesore, though the larger problems of crime and poverty prove harder to solve. Largely forgotten amidst more prominent concerns, the gullet continues to be a miserable place, especially for those Raparu who flee to Nekataka seeking a haven amidst the turmoil. For them, the Grand City is a promise cruelly broken. Ukaizo reveals more about the ancient art of water shaping than the Guild could have hoped to learn in another century of work. With this new knowledge, water shapers across the archipelago wield the currents and bend the waves for the pleasure and benefit of the new Juana nation. Though the Water Shapers Guild had been the pride of Nekataka for a century, your brutal attack left it in shambles. Years of knowledge and expertise died with the slain water shapers. Without the secret of Ukaizo, it would likely be many years before the Huana regained what was lost. The Anguithin and Huana ruins that Aethys reveals hold many surprises for the Water Shapers Guild. Though they yearn for the knowledge still hidden in Ukaizo, what they learn amidst their people's ruins spreads and strengthens the practice of water shaping across the archipelago. With Skiarelifus's essence still empowering the Water Shapers Guild, the practice of water shaping grows and flourishes in Neketaka, and its practitioners rise in prestige. They install conveyors in the falls that run through the city and craft sculptures for every street and plaza. Thus, the Water Shapers Guild becomes a power in its own right in the city of Neketaka. Though the loss of Skiarelifus's essence weakens the Water Shapers Guild, animancers with the Valian Trading Company offer a proposition. In exchange for knowledge of water shaping, they will develop a new source of essence for the guild. Some of the elders balk at sharing their secrets with foreigners, but the partnership that follows proves fruitful for the guild as well as the animancers. The loss of Skiarelifus's essence weakens the Water Shapers Guild. Their power wanes and their influence fades. The art of water shaping survives as an arcane curiosity. The Water Shapers Guild is allowed to remain in Neketaka. Its members continue their arcane art and dream of finding the ancient secrets of their practice. Your brief encounter with Letharn proves deeply influential for the children of the Dawnstars. Plagued with nightmares and haunted by the deaths at Hesango, Letharn begins questioning his faith in Aethys. At first, his fellow Dawnstars chide him. But that changes as word of Aethys's deeds at Ukaizo spreads. After all, what business have they worshipping a god who denied his own legitimacy? He comes to recognize his nightmares and the scene at Hesango as Aethys's final warning to his people. Unite in strength and faith, or perish forever. As word of Aethys's deeds at Ukaizo spreads, his fellow Dawnstars take this message to heart. The children of the Dawnstars respond to Aethys's sacrifice by taking up the lanterns and sickles of the harvesters of Gone. They become pilgrims of essence, gathering souls across Aora and ferrying them to the haven within the Adra Colossus. Others will repair or rebuild the wheel one day. In the meantime, the Dawnstars will care for the souls of the dead. The children of the Dawnstars respond to Aethys's sacrifice by taking up the lanterns and sickles of the harvesters of Gone. They become pilgrims of essence, gathering souls across Aora and ferrying them to the edge of Andra's mortar, that they might find their way to the haven within the Adra Colossus. Others will repair or rebuild the wheel one day. In the meantime, the Dawnstars will care for the souls of the dead. As Aethys pours his essence into Berith, so too do the children of the Dawnstars pour their faith into the god of doors and cycles, life and death. Some pray for guidance and order. Others take it upon themselves to enforce it. They sharpen their scythes and sickles to defend the peace they have been granted. They failed Aethys before. They will not fail Berith now. The faith of the children of the Dawnstars fades, but their commitment to the people of Deadfire does not. They continue feeding, healing, and helping the neediest, just as they have for decades. It is no longer a holy mission, but it is a mission all the same. The faith of the children of the Dawnstars brightens. Aethys returned to give the world the greatest gift of all, hope. In response, they continue feeding, healing, and helping the neediest in Deadfire just as they have for decades. It remains their holy mission, and they will persevere in love and faith. Ruanu, the chieftain of the Huana at Tikawara, dies mysteriously. The tribe finds his body washed up on the same beach where Anaharu challenged him to the trial of waves. Some blame Anaharu's vengeful spirit. Others see it as Ngati's final judgment. and a few speak of a strange man seen lingering in the village. Nairi, the priestess of the Huana at Tikawara, dies mysteriously. The tribe finds her body washed up on the same beach where her father challenged Ruanu to the trial of waves. Some blame Ruanu's restless spirit. Others see it as Ngati's final judgment, and a few speak of a strange man seen lingering in the village. Atsura sends a ship with food, aid, and a small garrison of soldiers to the unfortunate village. The leaderless tribe is all too happy to accept Rawatai's generosity. They return the favor by reaching out to other far-flung tribes on behalf of their new benefactors. The leaderless tribe eventually scatters. Some head to Nekataka, while others seek out the Wahaki. With the Adra of Pokakohara restored, Director Castol establishes a small port at Tikawara. He sends a team of animancers to study the ruins and their machinery. It is a small operation, but one that brings a measure of stability and prosperity to Tikawara and its people. Given his success with Port Mage, Clario is asked to recommend a governor for the new Tikawara port. Ikawa advises the tribe on working with their new Valian neighbors. It is, by all accounts, a successful and promising venture. With the Adra of Pokakohara restored, Director Alvari establishes a small port at Tikawara. Her team works day and night to extract the luminous Adra from Pokakohara. But the labor is hardest on the Huana, who are assigned the arduous and dangerous work of hauling the Adra from the ruins. Some slip away, hoping for better fortunes in Nekataka or among other tribes. The Adra at Pokakohara is restored, but the rumored Valian Trading Company post never comes to Tikawara. Torn between waiting and seeking better fortunes elsewhere, the tribe gradually scatters and fragments. With the Adra at Pokakohara destroyed and hopes of a Valian outpost dashed, the tribes resolve to leave Tikawara behind. Small and mobile, they move amongst the Kuaorakuhu Islands, where they escape the notice of larger powers. Once Hazanui Karu has fortified Rawatai's outposts and established dominance over Deadfire, she turns her attention to the slavers infesting Crooksburg. Though they have surrounded their walls with cannons and filled their harbor with ships, they are no match for Rawatai's fleet. The Hazanui liberates the slaves and executes their captors. The slavers of Crooksburg continue to seize and sell Juana, and Aldis turns her ships against them. Unfortunately, her fleet is too disorganized, and the slavers are too well entrenched. Despite dozens of small battles over the years, she is never quite able to eliminate them. Yet, her fierce attacks prevent the Crooksburg operation from expanding. To the misfortune of many, a group of slavers remains entrenched on Crooksburg. While they profit off the misery of Kith, no one is able to stop them. Crooksburg remains a slaver stronghold, and one whose dark legend only grows. For every so often, a slave ship bears its unfortunate cargo away to a little traffic corner of the archipelago, where vampires and gulls are rumored to feast on Kith flesh. Such ships return empty, their crew and captains visibly shaken. As the balance of power changes in Deadfire, so too does Nekataka transform. Though the Kahanga monarchy moves its new seat of government to Ukaizo, Nekataka continues to be a busy and important city. The Valian Trading Company builds up the port in Queensbirth. The company's expanding presence, however, quickly outgrows the dockside district. Company facilities and personnel spread throughout Nekataka. While Hazanui Karu directs her fleet from Ukaizo, Atsura stays behind to manage Nekataka. Under his oversight, sturdy walls and artillery batteries rise to protect the city. Ships bearing settlers from Rawatai and staple goods from the archipelago churn the waters of Queensbirth. And despite the vacancies at Kahanga Palace, Atsura retains his simple quarters in the Brass Citadel. Pirates, smugglers, and other criminals flow into the city, openly flouting its laws. With the major powers at one another's throats, Neketaka becomes a maelstrom of chaos. Spies and smugglers follow the flow of refugees into the city, where violence is commonplace. Ukaizo remains the coveted prize, and Neketaka fades into an afterthought. Sated by luminous Adra and left in peace, Menzago and his gulls grow powerful. Though their hunger for kith wanes, passing ships give Splintered Reef a wide berth. With Ukaizo secure and the slavers gone, Rawatai wastes no time in moving against Menzago and his gulls. Despite your arrangement, the Hazanui places no stock in the promises of a vampire. The legendary Rukapa bombard Splintered Reef until it is little more than foam and flotsam. Ships continue to disappear at the southeastern fringe of the archipelago, and stories circulate of a colony of vampires and gulls preying on their crews. The Queen soon sends a contingent of her bravest warriors who end the horrors of Splintered Reef. The Hazanui soon sends the Rukapa, who end the horrors of Splintered Reef. Free of Menzago at last, Copperhead determines to leave Splintered Reef. He and several fellow vessels cobble together a seaworthy ship from the wreckage of their island and set sail for brighter horizons.